lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt
Lloyd. Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker Podcast is powered by Magic Apple Technology. We've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. Today, my guest is a good friend of mine, John Cook. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing great, Matt. How's Matt today?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a little bit of a rough morning, but things are starting to turn around now that you're here, so thank you. So first thing we do is we start off with 5 random questions. Try not to think too much into these, just whatever comes off the top of your head, okay?
Sure. That'll be tough.
What doesn't exist but should?
What doesn't exist that should? Wow.
These are some thought-provoking.
I really don't know anything that doesn't exist that should exist.
All right. So much for these random questions. That's fine. Let's go to number 2 then. You'll be able to do this. What's the most interesting class you've ever taken?
The most interesting class I've ever taken has got to be. That's a great question. Probably I took a strategic management class at one point.
Yeah.
And that was really, really interesting because it took all of the classes that I had taken, and it was for an MBA program here at Belmont. And they took all the classes, and it was the capstone class.
Yeah.
And that was just a fascinating because it made you pull everything from all of the classes together.
So some good lessons you pulled from that one?
Absolutely.
Very good. Very good. This is a good one. What's the last thing you complained about?
The last thing I complained about was probably on the way over here. My wife came over. Was it
having to be on the show?
No, it was not. It was not on that at all.
I'm trying to. I don't know. John
and I traffic. Actually,
traffic. Yeah, John and I have been friends for like 8 years. We're best friends, and I don't know if I can answer this one. What do you secretly hoard?
What do my feelings for you?
Yeah, same here, buddy. Same here. This is a good. This is a thought provoking one, right? Let's put our serious caps on. What is your current biggest worry?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty much the one I have on a regular basis, which is, I came in and I work in a family business.
Right.
And I've been doing that for 32 years.
Yeah.
And my worry is, am I going to be able to do it another 30 years?
Yeah.
Is my biggest worry is, am I going to be able to sustain what the family has accomplished over the last 30 something years?
Yeah.
It's always my worry.
That seems like a pretty heavy one to carry around a little bit.
That and I also worry, does my wife know how much fortunate she is to be with someone like that? I worry about that. I want to make sure that she has that.
That's definitely a worry I know that you would have.
Yes.
And a well-deserved worry.
Yes. It's tough being a trophy husband. It really is.
Okay, so all right, let's find out a little bit more about you. Can you briefly introduce yourself, give us a little background?
So my name is John Cook Jr. I'm proud of the junior fact. Mm-hmm. I grew up all over the Southeast. By the time I was 18, I had moved 9 times. I went to school at Samford in Birmingham, decided that I needed a degree. So I moved back home and went to Belmont. And I graduated in 92. I went to high school at Springfield High School, just north of here.
Yeah.
Graduated Belmont in 92 and immediately started to work with my dad at a small family company called Dole Refrigerating Company. Dole's been around since 1937. We make truck and transport products as well as process freezing equipment. So my dad bought the company in 91. Part of the company was a small fiberglass company called Kenco Plastics. Mm-hmm. And so in 98, I went back to school. I got my MBA. And Dad said, here you go, John. If you're going to screw up a company, let's screw up the little company, which is Kinco Plastics.
Smart man.
Versus the other. So I hate to say it, but Kinco is always going to be a little special to me because that was the first company I ran. So that's sort of from a professional background. I know nothing but truck refrigeration, transport. And if you want to know about it, ask me. I'm an expert, but there's a lot of things I'm not an expert about.
Right.
One of those things is being a husband. Yeah. I've been married to my wife of 28 years. We have 3 daughters. Eeny, meeny, and miny. There's not going to be no mo. And they are 23, 21, and 16. And
the other thing about John is he is the king of dad jokes. He's always got a horrible joke in his pocket ready to pull out at any given moment.
Which, looking at you, reminds me of a joke.
Somehow I knew it would. Go ahead.
What? Because you've always had a mustache as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
So what kind of shoes does a mustache wear when hiking?
I don't know.
Fu Man shoes.
Yeah, that was a gift rim shot. There is what that was.
I got one more if you want it.
Sure, go ahead. Let's do it. We're already down this rabbit hole. Let's go.
What do you call a penguin in New York City?
In New York City?
Yeah, penguin in New York City.
I don't know.
Lost. It's terrible.
Rim shot and a laugh, man. You're not going to be dead today, buddy.
Yes.
Let me ask you this question: was there ever like a pivotal moment or experience that kind of shaped where you are in your career right now?
Absolutely. So I just got an MBA, hot shot out of school. And at that point, my dad called me up and said, hey, this is maybe a year later. He said, hey, one of our big customers has offered to buy our company. And John, I'm going to set you up. I'm going to give you $1 million to do any business you want to do. And I was like, that's terrible. And it really bothered me because I was like, okay, look, this is everything that I'd worked for. This is why I came to work for you. This is why I turned down other jobs. And now you're ready to sell this whole thing. And then it hit me. And it hit me that he didn't owe me anything. He didn't owe me next week's paycheck. He didn't owe me a job. He didn't owe me anything but last week's paycheck.
Right.
And at that point in my life, that's when my relationship with my father changed. That's when my relationship with work changed. And it became more of an aspect of, this is a gift. And whatever you're going to do, it's not owed to you.
Right.
So enjoy it. Enjoy the time that you're doing and the experience that you're living in. And I would say, Matt, that I probably, and you've known me a long time, I really try to enjoy life and enjoy wherever I'm at.
Oh, yeah. And you definitely do. I think, when we talk about, and we've, talked about this a bunch of times, the relationship you had with your dad and the business and all that kind of stuff, that, I've even wanted Gage to have a sit down with you and kind of hear your story and everything. Because, Gage is my son. Gage works in the business. And I feel like he hasn't had that moment yet. And I feel like that's a moment that he had. So once you had that, did you become more invested in Dole at that time? I mean, what did that feel like to you?
I don't think that I became more invested in Dole. I think I became more invested in probably in myself. And that sounds somewhat conceited or contrite, but that's not what I'm trying to do. It's just, I became more invested in myself and said, okay, what do I need to do so that it doesn't matter if he decides to sell the company? How can I grow myself? How can I become more valuable to this organization? You don't want to be where they can't work without you. What's that word? I had that head injury and I can't think of my words.
Dependent?
No, it's indispensable.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to be indispensable because you know what you're supposed to do with the indispensable person, don't you?
Yeah, fire him?
Yeah, exactly right. So I didn't want to be indispensable, but I wanted to be valuable. Right. And that's probably what it taught me more than anything is how to be a valuable member of any team.
Right. And I think that's something like, especially with smaller businesses or family-owned businesses, not to say your business is small because it's not, but you do feel like as a team member in that, you do kind of have to make your place known, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be able to make yourself important, not indispensable, but important, because if not, then the spotlights just tend to turn on you. Right. And everybody's going, hey, exactly. How much do we really need this guy at this point?
Well, I mean, but if you think about it, Matt, 89% of all businesses have less than 20 people in them.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with small businesses like that, you do want to be valuable, not indispensable. And the key word I want to keep going back to is valuable. What value are you bringing, not just for the organization, but for yourself? Because we're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised what happens if somebody comes in. Well, you have to set yourself up for success while making sure that that your organization is as successful as possible.
Right. So talking more about Dole, before, like you said, you've been around, the company had been around since 1932. 37. And it was actually, can you tell us a little bit the story from how the Cooks got involved in it? Because
sure.
Cooks, y'all didn't start the business in 1937.
We did not. So Dole started in 1937 as a division of Dole Valve Company. And it was located in Chicago, Illinois. And back in the 1930s, you didn't have refrigerators and freezers at your house, and they had these meat lockers. So Dole was doing the refrigeration for the meat lockers, and allegedly they had an interesting way of keeping people paying their bills, because if you didn't pay your bill, they would climb up on the roof of your building and turn your refrigeration off. So they had pretty good payables.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, so Dole Valve, they spun off to become Dole Refrigerating Company, and at Dole Refrigerating Company, they at that point, the Depression was coming about, and they went up for Dole Valve, spun them off, and said, "Hey, we're just going to let them go out, file bankruptcy on them." The person who came by to look at the company and value the company, his name was E.J. Tweed. So E.J. Tweed went in, and he was walking around looking and said, "Hey, what are these things over here?" And they said, "Oh, that's something the engineers called up. Those are eutectic plates." So what do? He said, "Well, you freeze them and they stay cold, and it's like a glorified ice cube." He said, "Well, look, if you can get me a blanket order, I'll buy the company." So Union City Body Company in Union City, Tennessee, put in a blanket order for I don't know how many plates. The Tweed family bought the company, and sort of the rest from that. That's how Dole Refrigerating continued to stay along. Well, so back then you had somebody that came up with this brand new concept of flash freezing food. The guy was Bird's Eye.
Yeah.
Right? So Bird's Eye Frozen Food contacted Dole to see if they could build, through another company, to see if they could build the plates for these freezers to flash freeze food.
Right.
So at that point, then Bird's Eye started making their own freezers, and Dole has always been luckier than good. And Bird's Eye said, "Hey, I don't want to make freezers. I want to freeze food. If y'all will make them, I'll give you a blanket order for these freezers." And Dole said, "Okay, why not?" Well, meanwhile, Dole was getting these freezers. You have these fiberglass cabinets. And these fiberglass cabinets were coming from a company in Wisconsin. This guy's a marketing genius, Matt. And his name was Ken, so he named his company
Kenco.
Exactly. So that's how Kenco and Dole came to be. So Kenco was making the cabinets for these freezers for Dole.
I don't think I ever realized that there was that connection that far back.
Oh, yes.
I kind of thought Kenco was its own separate thing that was just picked up along the way. So
Kenco is the free bamboo steamer of Dole Refrigerating.
Oh. That's great.
So Ken decided he was going to sell, didn't have anybody in his business, no family. So he said, "Hey, Dole, do you want to buy us?" Dole said, "Sure, why not?" Dole bought Kenco. So Kenco makes fiberglass buildings for the wastewater treatment industry. They also make the cabinets for the Dole freezers.
Right.
Well, Dole went along. The Tweed family bought it. They were in Chicago. They moved it from Chicago down to Lewisburg, Tennessee in the 70s to take advantage of cheaper labor. They moved it down here. And they have the company in Chicago, the one in Tennessee. They shut Chicago down. And they also had one up in Canada. In the 80s, they shut that down, moved it down. And in about 88, 89, the Tweed family went into, they sold the company to a company, Climate Master of Canada. Climate Master of Canada allegedly took the money, got all the cash out of the company and went into receivership. At that point, my father went in. He was working at the company. And as he was working at the company, the banker finally looked at him and said, hey, it's been a year. We hadn't been able to sell this company. Hey, what about you buying it? And my dad said, let me get this straight. I am 50 years old. I have 2 kids in college. I'm going to have to leverage everything I have to get this company. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So my dad bought the company in 91. That's when I started in 92. Things are rocking along, doing well. But then in about 2018 or so, our revenue had fallen. The dairy industry, we sell a lot to the dairy industry.
Yeah.
Dairy industry is just in a lot of disarray. And so our revenue was down. So I said, hey, I got to do something. And I'd been running the company for I don't know how many years at that point. Dad had stepped back, and Dad was the strategic guy. I was operations, and I was making. I was the president, but I was more operation. Right. But so as we do things, I said, Dad, hey, I want to buy a laser. This is 2018. He said, a what? I said, a laser. He's thinking, the
Dr. No, James Bond type thing. You know what I mean?
Something like that. And I said, Dad, I think we can do it. So he said, well, what is it going to cost? And at first I came up with like $100,000. And he was like, I don't know about that. But that was for a used piece of equipment. Yeah. And the more we looked at this used piece of equipment, I was like, oh man, I don't know. So our revenue was down. It had been falling. We were down about 40-something%. So what do you do when your revenue is down? And so, when your revenue is down, of course, your cash is going to be down a little bit too. I talked my dad into buying a laser, but it wasn't $100,000. $500,000, Matt, that we spent on this laser. Right. Got it. I spent 3 months, went to 6 states, 6 manufacturers, got this piece of equipment, installed it, and I had 0 customers. Yeah. And
I remember when you got that first laser.
Scared to death.
It's like when your revenue's down, all this stuff's not really going your way. What do? You roll the dice and you do something else. You take that risk.
That is correct. Yeah. That is. You see me waddling when I came in. Yeah. that is that. So we did that, and of course it's been well worth it. But again, it gets back to what value am I bringing, and it goes back to that. Dad's going to sell the company. What are you doing? Well, he doesn't owe you anything. Right. So what value can I bring to the company? What value can I bring to myself? And what value can I bring to others? Yeah. And that's ultimately, it gets back to that pivotal moment. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty pivotal moment in my life because that's for a lot of things. I mean, Renee and I, we have a small nonprofit that we educate girls in Kenya. And that was one of those, what value can I bring to other people? It's not about me. It's, what can we do for others? Yeah. We have a small scholarship at Belmont University now. When my dad died, we established a scholarship, the John Cook Family Scholarship. We did that. It's not about bringing attention to us. It's what value can we take to other people? What can we show them as far as being able to help others, but being the best you to make the best we.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned that your dad passed away, and I don't want to, depress you or anything, but when that happened, I mean, we were friends when that happened. I know that was a traumatic time for you. Tell me a little bit about that transition, like at work, because you are junior. When you go there and you said, you talk to John, junior, they hit you on the PA, junior, come up here. I think we even talked about it. You had big shoes to fill, but you had I think a really good outlook on what that was. Tell me a little bit about that time in the business for you.
That's a great question. So the first thing is, when Dad and I, we were tighter than a tick. Yeah. And we just did everything. We worked together and we'd vacation together and we'd go fishing, and we did everything together. Mm-hmm. We
went fishing with him together one time. Had a lot of fun.
Exactly. And we had the same jokes of I would put a lot of my jokes that I would say to my dad because Matt and I love fishing, and Matt always catches the smallest fish, and I have to separate them.
Unbelievable.
Because my fish will eat his little fish.
Him on the and you still just, wow. Unreal.
Anyway, so but that was a joke I always said with my dad, and that was a joke of endearment.
Yeah.
And but with Dad and I, again, we were really tight, and people saw that and they sensed that. Mm-hmm. And I really think when it first happened, I think people were fearful of what's he going to do.
Yeah.
Can he handle this? And it didn't take long for me. I don't know if I've proven to them or not, but yes, it goes back to bring the most value to me.
Yep.
Bring the most value to the organization. And because of that, I think people, it didn't take them long to see, hey, things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Things are going to be okay.
Gotcha.
And we ended up, since that time, I think we bought our third laser.
Yeah.
From that, we bought powder coating, bought a third laser. It's
You've really kind of transitioned from just this little niche thing of the Eutechnic plates to full blown metal fabrication, and you're doing all kinds of stuff now. Still doing it. So what's the percentage volume difference now between all the metal fabrication stuff and the legacy business side of it?
Enough.
Very good. Very good. So here's a little goofy question, but if you could go back in time, what's something that you would tell yourself, like what lesson have you learned now, the most valuable lesson you learned now that you could go back in time and tell yourself then to save yourself some headache?
Marry Renee sooner.
That's a good one.
We dated 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Wish I married her sooner. I lost out on that much time to love her.
Yeah.
Because she offers a lot of wisdom to me.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of, now the fact that she's sitting right across
she is sitting right here. So that's,
but she, and you can ask her later on how many times I've said that, but that is probably my biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, she should have been like Holly and I. We met in September. 2 months later, we were married. That's the way to do it. You do it fast and just move on. 25 years later. So.
Well, I was ready. She wasn't, evidently. So no, I mean, but it does when you we waited so long to, I mean, not long. It was, my parents dated 7.5 years.
Yeah.
So that's, comparatively speaking, 3.5 is not long.
Yeah, you just do it. It comes and it happens when it happens. You just roll with it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But I will go back and say that the Renee encouraged, first of all, she holds me incredibly accountable because when you're the boss's son, no one wants to hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. They want to, now, behind your back, they'll hold you very accountable.
More so than anybody else.
That's correct. So to have someone to say, John, that was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Right.
John, you have to show a little more discernment than that. And my dad would help me along and I'd get all butt hurt. And then Renee would come in and say, well, there's a little bit of truth to that.
Yeah.
So I think if I had to do over, I don't know if this is the question or not, but if I had to do over again, I would have gotten married sooner, just from a standpoint of, I think it would have made me appreciate things a little bit more. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I answered that question.
No, I think that's a good answer to that. Kind of switching gears here a little bit. COVID. How did COVID affect y'all's business?
What was
COVID?
Yeah.
It was that thing, that pandemic that came across a couple years ago.
Oh, see, Lewisburg was in this bubble, right?
Yeah.
And no, we didn't miss a lick.
Really?
No, we didn't miss a lick. We had one lady, I'm not going to say her name. She could probably sue us. But allegedly this one lady, she was exposed to COVID because, you figured out you can get paid to be exposed and not have to show up to work. She was exposed to COVID like 3 times, but we didn't miss a lick. We just, I put it like this. I don't care if you have COVID, if you have the flu, if you're throwing up. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
If you're sick, don't come to work. I don't care what you're sick with.
Doesn't matter.
Don't get me sick.
Yeah.
So that was our stance on COVID is if you're sick, don't come. We didn't, I mean, at one point we were going to kind of check everybody's temperatures. Man, that was it. It didn't phase us a bit. We just worked because that's just all we know to do is just to work.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Cause it definitely, I mean, and yours is a little different than most other people we have on the show because you're manufacturing. And so remote work isn't really doable in a lot of ways. But you still deal with the remote aspect of a lot of things, because I know like with your lasers and all those type things, all of those things, when they go down, it's remote worked, right? I mean, they fix everything remotely. They don't have to come on site.
Majority of it. But
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, if you have the, see if anybody gets this, if you have the flux capacitor that's down.
Yes.
if your flux capacitor is down, you have to have somebody come in and change that. Now, our lasers really don't have flux capacitors, but there's certain things you have to do. But it is good if it's a programming issue or something that they can come in and see, because they can diagnose. And I don't mind saying we have Trump lasers, and they do a really good job of supporting us. Now, the disadvantage is they do a great. I've talked to people in Germany. I've talked to people in Connecticut. I've talked to people all over, and they do a good job of walking us through when we get them. And with manufacturing, it's and if you're blowing and going, and we charge $250 an hour for a laser, and I've got lasers down, it becomes pretty expensive to me pretty quickly. I don't want to wait a few days to get that, and I think that's the only disadvantage of the remote aspect of it. But they do a really good job of helping us with that. When I travel, we have cameras at work. Cameras help me not just manage my business. It's a from a loss prevention, it's pretty good. Yeah. One time we saw a guy that he came to us and said, "Hey, I fell and I hurt my knee." I don't know if you remember this or not.
Kinda.
Well, we had one lady that fell out of her chair, but that's another story.
I remember. That's the one I remember.
Yes. Fell out of a chair, workers' comp. But she, this other guy came to us and said, "Man, John, he said, Junior, I fell and I fell and I hurt my leg." And so I went back and looked at the tape, and he was trying to plug something in and he couldn't reach it. So he rolled a chair over there. So if he's rolling a chair, that means the chair has wheels. Yeah. So he's standing on a wheel with chairs and he reaches up, loses his balance, and he falls because of that. Well, of course we still honored it's workers' comp. We're going to take care of it, but we were able to at least have a discussion with him about how to do that. So managing loss prevention, managing workers, seeing what's going on at the plant. And we also do, because I do travel, we have software that it's a very simple Excel sheet that we utilize, so I can see where different products are at the different processes within the manufacturing.
Got you. Let me ask you this. Where do you see the future of not only where Dole's going, but American manufacturing going?
Automation.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Automation. So, we need welders. And if you're in metal fabrication, you're going to need welders. Everyone's a welder until they put a helmet on. Right. And that's my plant manager, Tim Honey, saying, everyone's a welder until they put a helmet on, which means everybody says they weld. Everybody can do it out of a barn or at their uncle's shop or whatever. That doesn't mean you're a welder. Right. And to have the skill to be able to do that, well, we need welders. It's hard to pay for welders, and welders they're making more than we normally pay. Right. So I'm in process right now. I'm working with a company that is designing a robotic weld cell that will have on one side, it'll have a turntable, so it'll be able to rotisserie chicken my parts. On the other side, it's flat. And so I'll be able to load one side, let it weld while I'm loading the other side, and then the robot will go back and forth. Here's the great thing about it. Robots don't ask for a raise. They don't ask for time off. And now they do get a little persnickety every now and then, and you have to get somebody to come program them. That aspect can be done remotely. Yeah. But robots show up for work. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. And they're there on site, and they're going to be there before you even show up that day.
Do you think that there's going to be a resurgence of American manufacturing?
Absolutely.
I kind of feel like that too. Why would you say that you feel that way?
I think this, with COVID, the supply chain issue. Yeah. I think for us, we had some aluminum parts that normally would take us 26 weeks. In 26 weeks, that's a long time to prepare to, hey, look, You got to really think ahead when you're on a 26-week lead time.
Yeah.
Well, it stretched out to 58 weeks. One of my customers was so mad at me, they came in and they tried to buy me because they wanted to be able to control it a little bit more. I said, I don't know. I thought he said, the way I interpreted that was he thought I was an idiot and thought he could do it better.
Yeah, I could do it better. You're like, you have no idea.
No idea. So with that, a lot of companies have done that now. I think that we are the manufacturing sector is down right now.
Yeah.
And the reason and it's going to be tough for a few people, but the manufacturing sector is down right now because of supply chain issues. People pre-bought. So they bought more than what they needed. And then the other thing, not only did they buy more what they were needing, because at that point you could do it for 2.5% money. Now it's at 7% money, and you can't run your operation off 7 and 8% money anymore. So people overbought. They've got a lot on the shelf. We've got this whole inflation thing. People aren't buying as much stuff as they used to. So there's all this stuff, and it's really going to weather. So I think manufacturing is going to take a little bit of a dip. You're going to see some manufacturers, some small manufacturers go away. But then once it comes back, my mentor, his name is Leon Drennan. Leon is determined that once we get through this, the U.S. economy is about to explode.
I've heard that from multiple. I've heard it from a big guy in real estate saying the same thing. That once we get through this recession, non-recession, whatever.
Oh, it's a recession. I'll call it.
It'll just. He's expecting just growth like we haven't seen before.
And a lot of it's going to be manufacturing growth.
Yeah,
because people have realized. Because it used to be back in the day, it was you'd pick up an ashtray made in China and it was junk. Now it's great. But now what they're seeing is, okay, that's a great ashtray, and I can get it for 50 cents. But I think I'd rather pay $2 to have it made in the U.S. and I can get it and I know where it is. And
it's there, and I don't have to worry about the shipping containers and what was the Panama Canal thing that got blocked off and caused it was forever.
Well, but not only that, I don't have to worry about, is the dock worker going to show up to work that day?
Yeah.
There's only so much automation you can do.
Yeah. It's a very good point. Very good point. Last question I'll ask you. Tell us about the hair.
The hair?
Yeah, the hair.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. So one of my favorite things about Cook is we've been in a business group together for a long time, and we take these retreats or whatever. And we were in Savannah one time. I love walking behind John Cook in a crowd because every single person is like, looking at that hair going by, it's the greatest.
You got to audibly describe the hair so
the
listeners get it.
Yeah, so he has a kind of Back to the Future Doc Brown kind of look going on, right?
That's it. Doc Brown, Einstein, whatever you want to call me.
And it's just grown over the years, because when I first met you, it was just like a little bit. And then it just kind of keeps going and going. It's almost like a Rick and Morty type thing almost to the point. But it suits you so well. I mean, it's you, it's your personality, it's everything all wrapped up in one. But we had to ask about it because
absolutely
it is that thing about you that people want to know.
And I give my hair, I give the entire credit. Renee says responsibility, but I give all of that to our middle daughter, Sadie.
Yeah.
Sadie came to me years ago, and she's a very animated kid at the time, and she said, "Dad, you need to put some KABOOM in your hair." And I mean, she's doing the whole body KABOOM like that. And so that's what I started doing that. But remember the word KABOOM.
Right.
Because there's a story that goes with this. As you well know, there's always a story.
Yes.
So the story is...
And a poorly told joke.
Yes. I ran out of KABOOM, right? And so Renee just goes and buys some other KABOOM. No worry about it. We're going through, I'm in Minneapolis. I'm going through the screener, right? And I got to back up and say, when I get ready in the morning, take a shower, I shave whatever I'm going to do, and the last thing I do, I put my clothes on, and then I get the KABOOM, put a little bit in my hand, like Mr. Miyagi, rub it, and then I just go through my hair. Pack my clothes, throw my laptop in my bag, kiss my wife, go out the door.
Right.
So that's my routine. So in Minneapolis, going through, the little screener goes off. I'm like, oh, man, no big deal. I go over there, and the guys, my arms are outstretched, and the guys, I said, what's going on? And he goes, sir, you've tested top positive. And he leans in, and he says, for explosives. Right? And this dude, he is fresh off the farm. I mean, he is sweating. His face is red. He has caught the next great terrorist, evidently.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whatever. And so he frisks me, doesn't find anything. They take me in the little room. Mm-hmm. Of course, I have a little bit of fun in the little room because I'm a jerk that way, I guess. And so I go on my way. No problem. The next flight I take, same thing. The next flight I take, same thing. They are busting me at every airport that I go in, and they're telling me I'm testing positive for explosives, and I don't know what I've done, right? And so finally we're going, it's in November. We're going for our youngest daughter, Tate. We're going for her birthday trip. Mm-hmm. And Renee and the girls, they are on the plane. And I'm sitting here at security, and they have everything in my backpack because I don't take a luggage. I just take my backpack. And they have everything. I mean, it's strewn all over the place, and they're like scratching their heads. And I don't know if I'm about to be strip searched or what. And finally, someone looks at the hair gel that Renee got and said, "Oh, there's glycerin in this hair gel."
That's why they call it KABOOM.
Well, I certainly was not going to tell the TSA agent, "Oh, look at the KABOOM I've got in my bag." It's a lifestyle, man. It's a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. Look, before I just want to say thank you for being on the show today, John. I really appreciate it. We've been friends for a long time, and I've really enjoyed this one today. So where can they find you, and where can our people find more about Dole Refrigeration?
So we have the Dole family of companies. So we try and make it easy. Dole Ref, DOLEREF, Dole like the pineapple, Ref like a ref at football. Mm-hmm. DoleRef.com.
Okay.
They can find out about our truck refrigeration, transport refrigeration. I got to say this: if you want to save about $8,000 to $10,000 per year on your delivery truck, mm-hmm. if you're running a mechanical system, you can save about $8,000 to $10,000 a year using a plate system versus a mechanical system.
Especially as gas being so high as it is right now.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And you also save over 13 tons. You can reduce your carbon footprint by over 13 tons a year by using, and this is per truck.
Yeah.
By using our product. We are an approved California air reduction pollution, whatever CARB. Mm-hmm. We're an authorized. We are an approved refrigeration system for them. So that's exciting. But
it's green, baby.
It is green. So DoleRef.com. Find out more about that. Our plate freezers, Dole Fab, DOLEFAB. Uh-huh. Fab, just like
fabulous.
Your mustache.
Yes, thank you.
Fabulous, yes.
Like your hair.
Yes, DoleFab.com if you want to know more about that. If I do a weekly, what is it?
It's a blog post.
That's it.
so there's a whole thing here. So like one time we were like, everybody knows what a vlog is, right? A video thing. So forever he just called them vlogs. So like whatever, I was like, oh yeah, that's a B-log, bro. That's a vlog. That's a D-log.
Yes.
Because if either one of us do something kind of stupid, the other one's like, I'm getting on that train. I'm going to ride that sucker till the wheels fall off.
Exactly. Exactly. So I do a weekly blog on there. It's not super exciting, but it gives you a little bit of peek.
I enjoy your subject lines when you post them. Those are the best part of them. I've tried to read some of the other ones, and yeah, it's technical stuff, and I'm like, okay, I got a paragraph in. I felt pretty good about that. But I enjoy the subject lines. That's really great.
So anyway, so Dole Ref, Dole Fab. We have Kenco Plastics.
Yep.
KENCO Plastics.com, mm-hmm. and then Kenco Powder. KENCO, then powder coating. For the powder coating. So we have 4 different companies. We call it the Dole family of companies, where I serve as president and also serve as the executive director for the Cook family. As in general, wife, 3 daughters, and the executive director, because I figured out years ago somebody conned me into investing in a movie. Right? And they said, John, we're going to make you an executive producer. So, that sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
Yeah, all it means is you're going to pay for it.
That's right.
That's it. So I'm the executive producer of our family, and that's sort of where I am on that. But I love life. I love you, Matt. Love Holly.
Love you too, buddy.
Thanks for letting me do this, and I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
being here today. Yeah. So, hey, listen, I really appreciate it. And that's it for this episode of The Wandering Worker. We hope you enjoyed hearing from John today. I know I've enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. Mark your calendar for our next podcast. We put them out weekly. We'll do another deep dive into the world of the wandering worker. We'd like to thank Magic Apple, as always, for bringing this episode to you today. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or your work from home experience, give us a shout. We've been helping people since 2008.
Did you ever head injury too?
I feel like I have a head injury today. Again, I am Matt Lloyd. Until next time, check us out on our socials. We'll see you next time on The Wandering Worker. Thank you.